Gleno had said, oh, you know, we've got this young fella involved, blah, blah, blah. He's got his own website, he knows what he's up to.
John didn't know. I wasn't going to tell him.
It could have been almost anyone. Mate, when's he arriving?
Mate, I sent him a pin drop. As long as he can read a map, mate, he'll be here shortly. No dramas.
Oh, righto. So, what's he bringing?
Mate, I believe he's bringing a swanky new Luxie.
Oh, fair enough. So I suppose it's all zoned up, is it? And off-road animal?
Yeah, mate, I believe it's had the McCormack's treatment as well. She's, from all stories I've heard, she's going to be a ripper.
Excellent. Well, we'll soon find out, I suppose. Hey, this might make a nice camp on top of this hill, Gleno.
Mate, picturesque. We can see the curvature in the earth.
I reckon it could possibly be the highest point around here.
This is nice, mate. It's real good.
We get enough of a flat spot, we're laughing.
A fire right on the top of that hill, right there. Perfect.
Hey!
Hey fellas.
Mr. Everett.
How are we, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Bloody long time no see.
Yeah, too right.
Picked a hell of a spot, haven't you?
Yeah, got yourself a new car.
Yeah, I pinched it. So, yeah. I hope I can pass it off as mine. Should be alright.
Should be alright.
Yeah.
Or D for Dan.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rest of it means, but the first part's sorted.
I'm glad you found our little bit of paradise here, mate.
This is unreal.
It's nice, isn't it, eh?
Nice and high, isn't it?
Beautiful. It's going to be really warm tonight too.
Chainsaws on the front box of the zone, mate.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like you're leading me somewhere?
That was a hint.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that for wood?
Yeah.
Oh no,
Very
we
cool.
can have a fire up here. We're going to get one. It'll just be an unreal sunrise, I reckon. Be popping up over there, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's the right way, isn't
You have to tell me all about it.
it? Yeah, okay. Wake up! Righto, let's light a fire then.
Sounds good, mate. Let's get to it.
Cool.
So we can sit around, have a drink and talk all things Dust 'em Up.
Perfect.
Dan Everett, he's a good bloke. Known Dan for, I reckon, about 8 years. He's a great journalist. He's got Red Dirt Diary and just all around good bloke. And I thought he'd just be a good fit, you know, with John and I. Just fit in nicely.
Gleno gave me a buzz, said that Keno's not going to be able to make it this time. That means there is a decked out HiLux with my name on it. And I'm keen to get it out there on these tracks.
Hey, it worked out really well.
The beauty of what we do with Dust 'em Up is we don't go to designated campsites very often. You know, we just drive the bush. And in this case, at the top of the range, a beautiful spot, great for the sunrise and the sunset. You know, Dan couldn't miss us, that's for sure, but just picturesque.
Conondale National Park, it's kind of like Queensland's high country. You know, plenty of sharp little tracks running up the side of hills, ridge tracks. So we popped a beautiful little ridge track. Perfect place to wait for Dan Everett to show up.
What an introduction to South-East Queensland. You know, you think South-East Queensland, you think beaches. Sitting up there, we had the fire going, endless views. This place is exactly like the Victorian high country.
In this episode of Dust 'em Up, we start just north of Brisbane at Conondale National Park. we explore west of the Sunshine Coast before heading east for some beach driving. Queensland. You gotta love it.
Oh, look at this, the way it just unfolds. This is a lovely bit of track.
Mate, it's nice and tight too. You're pushing that zone through, that's for sure.
Neither of us had actually driven with Dan before, so I guess we've driven with each other for a lot, many years, you know. So I guess to some degree we wanted to find a few tricky little tracks just to see what the guy was capable of. Yeah, he's good at this stuff. Have you noticed? It's pretty amazing where he can put that thing.
Oh, I've got to get out in the afternoons, Dan, and get rid of the nerves by having some cordial.
Sounds like a plan, fellas.
Oh, look, you can just see it from here. It just keeps on going forever. It's lovely.
Mate, I didn't know there was anything like this out here.
Yeah, it's good coming out to places like this where, you know, you're the only one out here. You're discovering it all by yourself. With Conondale, I hadn't driven through there before, but to my surprise, we wanted to go the back way. We didn't want to go on the tarmac. We didn't want to go where everyone else had been before.
Tight right-hander there for you, Gleno. It'll be fun.
Keep an eye on your inside while you go around.
It's all logging country, so the tracks can be all sorts of things. Suitable for trucks, suitable for little dozers. So the tracks were pretty incredible. I think the thing we had in our favour was that they hadn't had a lot of rain, because if you got a lot of rain in there, you'd be doing a lot of winching.
You're right there. If you can go a little bit of left hand down, you'll be sweet. Easy, mate. You've done this before.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, once. This is my second rodeo.
Oh, far out.
Amazing logging tracks, just weaving your way through the bush to get to where you want to go. It's just exploring new country. There's nothing better. With all this greenery around here, guys, it'd have to be a creek. Know how much John loves to go for a cold dip.
Ha ha ha. Yeah, right. I tell you what, mate, best cure on earth for a quick wake up anyway. Jumping into your waist in the ice.
Mate, this is getting real tight now. Look, if the campsite's steep, that means these tracks are going to be really steep too. A lot of them are old logging tracks, but man, they have really degraded over the last few years. We're only a couple hundred metres in, there's already ruts, there's tree roots everywhere. This is going to be a fun couple of hours. A bit of right hand there if you can, you're around the corner.
Yeah, it's got to watch the awning on that left-hand side.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the trees, but you don't have much of a choice with the vines.
Just want to make sure I don't put the trailer into that hole there on the right-hand side. This is,
Keep going hard left if you can, mate. You're gonna dip in that hole. Keep going, try about another metre forward and that'll be in the middle of it.
yeah, mate, it's going to get worse, I believe. So I might have to have a double take somehow. Get out and have a quick look. Oh, nasty.
Oh, well stopped, Gleno. It'd be the one place too where there's no tree to hold it up.
Yeah.
Truth. As usual, I've got to say it was a really good call by Gleno, because there was literally 3 inches in it, you know. Most people wouldn't even think, they'd just keep on going, and that would have been that zone down the side of the hill, fair dinkum. But he stopped with about 6 inches to spare in terms of forward movement, and he knew that the wheel track was wrong.
Well, I've come down the track here and this big tree had come down or been cut down there. So which changed the total angle for me getting the van through. So there's a big drop off there. The wheel's about to drop into it. Probably stopped about a foot short, and it was time for a recovery.
If you want, there's a big tree stump up in front. I could winch you. We could do a slingshot winch and get the camper sideways. So I'm guiding Gleno through this track, right? And I know what those zones are worth, so I wasn't having that on my conscience. It just wasn't quite able to make it. So we've pulled him up, we've made the call. We're gonna have to do a slingshot winch.
We're going to hook up the winch via a tree, pull the van sideways, straighten it up, get it through the turn. It's good fun. So we live for this. I can't stress enough, when you're towing a camper through such tracks, that you've always got to have where the rear wheels of the camper are, and where your front wheels of your car are. You've got to have your mirrors adjusted perfect so that you can see what's going on back there, because you've got a drawbar, whether you've got a short one or a long one, the pitch and the turning circles always change. Oh, we're actually going to use a snatch strap to put around the tree, because it's not the biggest tree in the world, so we're going to stretch, I suppose, the pressure point or the pull point on the tree by evening it out by wrapping it probably over a metre or so. But I certainly couldn't reverse out of there, so that's where we set up the slingshot.
All right, everyone's clear, so I'll get a little bit of tension on and then I'll let you know when I'm pulling in.
Bobby.
That snatch strap's going to give you a bit of a buoying effect.
Yeah, there we go. It should be starting to go now.
Good work, my friend. It's working beautiful.
Old slingshot winch, mate. Works every time.
Pull up!
John's going to go and have a look at it, but what I'm thinking, I might back a heap of slack off this, and when you go forward, we might leave this rope on it just till you pass the apex.
Yep, just thinking that, mate. Beautiful.
Hey Gleno,
Yeah, mate.
you can just go 18 inches. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa!
Right up there, mate. We might pull it again.
Wind it up, mate.
All right, we're good to go, so just make sure everyone's clear and we were up.
Hold on. There, winch her up, mate. Just to have the patience to do that and the judgment to do that, it's quite an awesome thing, really.
Now you saw how that went. Now it's very important to keep that rope on and the tension as you roll through the turn. It's just an extra added bit of safety. Safety is the number one thing. You can't rush when towing. Take your time, know where your wheels are, and take the time to get out properly. Well, I had the fortune of having Dan behind me. As soon as I saw it in the mirror, he was saying at the same time, Gleno, watch out for this. So it was good. He was watching me and I was watching me, and that's the beauty of, you know, having someone behind you. Keep an eye, please, mate. I wouldn't come down here by myself with a trailer. There's just no way you'd do it. So you've got to travel in a convoy. You got eyes in front, eyes in the back. And as you saw there, it was teamwork and everyone communicating together using proper recovery methods. We're safe.
Oh, a few ruts here, Gleno. This track might test you a little bit. I doubt it.
Oh yeah, look at that. Be interesting.
I reckon it'd be big news with a bit of rain on it. It looks soft enough as it is.
Yeah, we've locked it.
Oh, this is different forest again, isn't it? This is insane regrowth.
Might have something to do with global warming.
Climate change.
What I'm doing here, keeping these ones out of the way. These ruts are pretty wild, and even with the power steering, fall into a rut, you can grab the wheel and throw it around. So I'm just, hands nice and loose on the steering wheel, let it do its thing, and if I need the HiLux to go somewhere, I just kind of gently guide it and hope for the best.
Oh, this is an awesome bit of forest, isn't it?
Yeah, pine trees everywhere. It's my favourite.
Change pretty quick, especially with that sunlight coming through. It's just beautiful down here.
Yeah, Conondale to Lake Barumba, or Barumba, the area around there. Beautiful pine forest. Look, I'm a pine forest freak. I love the smell. I love the smell of burning pine. They're just a beautiful tree. I love pine cones. Good for starting fires. And just that smell.
There's a little bit of water up here too, guys, and it might even get wetter.
Ah, you up for a swim, John?
I feel like it's going to end up being me in that creek.
Well, I don't mind swimming in Queensland, it's always warm.
It's a bit bitey up here though.
Oh, this is beautiful through here.
Yeah, look how tall those pines are. Beautiful. You know, there's a lot of them because it's blocking out a lot of the sun, because normally they don't put a lot of shade out a pine tree.
Mate, this is surreal. It's, if you look down at the ground, we're in a rainforest. If you look up, we're in a pine forest.
Wouldn't mind finding some pine wood to burn. Love the smell of pine wood burning.
Oh, here we go, we've popped out onto something bigger.
Barumba Weir is absolutely beautiful. Great campsites, great swimming. There is a little element of danger though. These weir crossings, they look pretty safe, but right underneath that water, even when it's nice and smooth, there's generally a thin little layer of moss. When you're driving through and the current's fine, everything's going to be okay. But you really notice it when you go for a walk.
It's funny, I've been through that backtrack once before and it's absolutely glorious. The thing about that whole region is there's so many little farm tracks to access all the back farms, and unless you just go and have a look, you're not going to find them. It's kind of like driving through the back of the high country or something, isn't it, you know? This little transport section.
Yeah, the roads are good and nice and wide, lots of pines. It is a little bit like that, just Queensland style.
Yeah, and I reckon Queensland style it'll be warm enough for a swim up at Barumba too.
You're trying to talk me into something there, John.
We'll get you in, mate. Yeah, and look at all the little tracks off to the side here. I mean, you know, all that stuff around Kenilworth, and then look how much more country we've got up here.
Starting to think you blokes have got a lot of these secret places just hiding around.
Yeah, it's good that you can get out of the city not too far, like an hour north of Brizzy, and you can do the backtracks and you don't have to touch the bitumen.
Righto, I'm just swinging right here. We're getting close to Barumba. If there's a couple of things you've got to look for in a campsite, you know, a little bit of level, a little bit of grass, and some running water right next door. That's all three in one hit, and that campsite had all three in one hit. We've got a bit of an issue here, okay? Because I had planned to do a pork pie, and you do a pork pie pork pie in the fire, don't you, you know? Except that there's a fire ban on in all of South-East Queensland, and we're just in South-East Queensland, so there you go. We certainly won't be breaking the bans. So we're going to try a deconstructed pork pie, which is going to be a little weird, but hey, when it comes to weird, I'm your man. All right, now it starts out a little bit like my pork pie would, which is some oil in the pan, some curry powder, probably about a tablespoon there, some garlic. Woohoo, there we go. So once we've got the garlic in there and the curry powder, just give it a bit of a stir to cook it up. And over here, I've got a mix of a couple of things. This is just pork mince, and this is actually pork chops that I've chopped up. And we just stir that up. That's got the pork cooking along well. Pork and chicken, to my mind, you should always give them a good cook, you know, make sure they're cooked. Before I put that magic ingredient in, this is soy sauce. Soy sauce or oyster sauce, give it a good old hit. Lots of salt in that. This is a can of cream of mushroom soup. This is another can of soup. In it goes. Now this, a bit of a magic ingredient actually. This is Anita's green chili jam. This is whole grain mustard. And then finally, you need a good old dollop of honey. Oh, just get those flavours into the meat. Do a little test run. Whoa! Yes, it's going to work. And at this stage, Gleno's chopped me up a heap of spuds. There we go. Mushrooms. These are already cut from Woolies. How easy is that? And finally, some frozen peas that would have been frozen, but they thawed out. All we've got to do now is stir all this up. So I'm going to let that cook for a while. Come back and see me come pastry time. Now, when you have a pie, you have a beautiful crust, don't you? Well, we don't actually have a beautiful crust, but what we do have is a pan with a little bit of oil and the puff pastry that I always carry that I was going to use on the pie. And what I've done is I've just taken a sheet of puff pastry and folded it to fit in the pan, and then I'm just going to shallow fry it. We'll see how that works out, eh? Bit adventurous, but hey, so's four-wheel driving. Let's see where we go with this. And look at that. That's what we get. It's a little bit like phyllo pastry. Just took a little bit of oil, fried on both sides. We'll see how the pie mix is going. So here we are, about 20 minutes later, which is funny because that's how long it would take to cook the pie filler before it went in. All we need some victims. Hey Dan, Gleno, this is a deconstructed pie. There you go.
That looks good.
It'll be hot. Watch your hand, that's red hot under the bowl, mate.
I like the way he did the pastry. I'm a touch, feel, taste sort of a guy. That pastry took me back to Ireland.
Anyone who travels with Roothy knows that one of the best things about his cooking is he always manages to pull a rabbit out of his hat. Doesn't matter what the ingredients are, what goes wrong, he will always come up with a banger. Half an hour later, there it is on the plate. Spicy, hot, it's exactly what you want around a camp.
I couldn't resist jumping in for a swim the next morning. Hey guys, how good was last night?
It was a beautiful camp. Good for sleeping, listening to that water rushing over the causeway. Yeah, big night's sleep.
Absolute ripper with that morning swim too. It's a good way to start the day.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was a quick wake up, wasn't it? It was unreal.
Oh, is that what you guys did? I went to the shower block.
That'd be right.
Gotta go to the old natural shower, mate.
We couldn't possibly be in this neck of the woods and not drop into Land Cruiser Mountain Park. It's got to be the epicentre of four-wheel driving. Certainly in Queensland, maybe in Australia, I don't know. I love the place. It's funny, isn't it? There's 3 different ways to get from Imbil to Land Cruiser Park that I know of that involve bits of dirt road. That one, that most direct route, was an absolute corker.
And what a beautiful drive to get there, Bella Creek Road.
Mate, I think I've been going to Cruiser Park for about 10 years now and I haven't driven half the tracks yet. So if the rest of it's anything like this road, should be an absolute ripper.
This little road, it would have to be one of the unsung mysteries of the world almost. Not many people know about it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, good to do the backtrack, guys.
It's definitely the fun way to go, that's for sure. I think I've probably lost track on how many times I've been to Land Cruiser Mountain Park and how much damage I've done to four-wheel drives over the years, but this trip taught me something, and it's that I still haven't even scratched the surface of it. That's kind of the beauty of this place. It's Disneyland for four-wheel drivers.
When I was 17, I had my first 60 Series Land Cruiser. All I wanted to do was get to Land Cruiser Mountain Park. I was one of these young kids, teenagers, that just could not wait to drive, could not wait to camp, could not wait to four-wheel drive, light fires, boil the billy, use a camp oven, blah, blah, blah. That was the first place I went with my 60 Series. And I've probably been back a couple of times every year since. So that's 30 years I've been going to Land Cruiser Park.
I did my first four-wheel drive job for a magazine at Land Cruiser Mountain Park. So I've been going there over 22 years. I know Albin and Helen really well. They're the salt of the earth, and that place is the mecca, the epicentre for four-wheel driving. If you haven't driven at Land Cruiser Mountain Park, then you've got something you need to experience.
As capable as the Zone 12-footer is, I reckon I'm going to unhitch before we hit the tracks, just in case Roothy leads us somewhere gnarly.
I'm not coming to Cruiser Park without doing some tracks. Have you been up Prado before, Gleno? You have, you must have.
Many years ago, mate. It's a memorable one.
I don't think I've done much out this side before. I'm pretty keen to see what's up here. The tracks out here are endless.
From memory, Dan, you get a couple of alternatives up here. So we probably won't take the chicken track just because we want to have some fun.
Mate, that sounds like the exact kind of line I'm looking for.
One thing you want to watch here on this track is loose goalies on the way back down for any reason.
Good fun.
The tyre pressure is king in this kind of terrain, because I'm basically running all-terrain, but I definitely wouldn't call this an all-terrain kind of track, but I've dropped them down to about 18 PSI, which lets them bag right out and give me plenty of grip without going too low that it's going to risk coming off the bead.
Prado Parade isn't the toughest track at Land Cruiser, but it's a pretty good indicator of what you can come up with, you know. And last time I went up there, I rolled Milo 2 coming down. So I figured at least me needed to go back and conquer it again just for my own sake. And I know Glenn enjoyed it because he loves a tough wheel. What surprised me was how well Dan handled it too, just quietly.
Prado Parade. I guess we were on that track for about 2 to 3 hours. Just taking our time, just taking in the scenery, you know, taking in the four-wheel driving. There was some really good spots there. You know, wheel lifts, tree stumps, loose rock, boulders. You know, we weren't in a rush. Don't ever be in a rush when you're four-wheel driving. But it just went on, and then it opened up to big fields. Yeah, you know, Cruiser Mountain's got it all.
Oh, you gotta love Cruiser Park, hey? It never fails to impress with the tracks.
That was good fun. Thoroughly enjoyed jamming it into low range and getting the traction control to go ticky tick tick.
Mate, it's just constantly changing too. I feel like we've been in about 4 different parts of the country just this afternoon.
I'm buzzing at the moment. Nothing does it for me more than a couple of hard tracks.
Yeah, quite technical. Thoroughly enjoyed that. The old 200, mate. I'm loving it.
I think it's time to head back to camp. It's funny, isn't it? We're out in the middle of the Tracker camping ground at Land Cruiser Mountain Park. Gum trees, birds, you know, kookaburras. The kookaburras there might as well be trained the way they come in and land on the end of your swag. It's just a fantastic place. Kangaroos hopping through. I don't think there's a more Australian place. No water in the creek, but not this year.
Tracker campsite at Land Cruiser Mountain Park. It's an old favourite. I've stayed at probably all the campsites there. But it's my favourite because it's got amenities, good for the ladies, beautiful hot showers. One of my loves is green grass. And it was a beautiful green. There was hardly anyone there. We had the place to ourselves pretty much. And we had a good fire, a good feed, and just a great night, just chilling out.
Here's the thing, 30 odd years ago, when I started courting the handbrake, I'd only just met her, we both had regular jobs, you know, 9 to 5 stuff, 5 days a week. Yes, you're right, it's probably the only year and a half in my life where I actually did that, but we used to spend almost every second weekend out in the bush. You know, we'd just drive an hour or two out of town, find a creek, something like that, you know, go to one of the sand islands, camp up, sometimes just overnight, sometimes for 2 nights. And it was glorious. It really was. It used to get us out and about before we could actually have the time and the money to get seriously out and about. And years later, I'm seeing my nephew, for instance. He's a good example, young Lachlan. He and his girlfriend Cass, every second weekend. I mean, they both work really hard, but every chance they get, bang, couple of hours drive out of town, find somewhere new to camp, different view, light a fire, have some life. And I guess that's the message that I want to convey, because here we are on this DVD. Most of the time we've been within a couple of hours of Brisbane, our capital city, okay? If not, we were down sort of mid-New South Wales, only a few hours away from Sydney. And the whole thing is that you can spend your whole life saving up to build up the truck, to get all these things ready for that huge iconic trip to Cape York, which will be an absolute buzz when you get around to it. But you can miss out on a whole lot of weekenders in between. You know what I mean? And I guess I'm probably reminding myself as much as everyone else here that sometimes the epic adventures, yeah, they're great. You've got to do them. You've got to have your bucket list. You've got to tick it off. But don't forget that the bush is never more than a few hours away. It's one of the best things about living in Australia. It really is. Doesn't matter where you live, even if you live in the country. Somewhere not far out of town, ideal campsite, somewhere you can go and commune with nature, just be at one with the world, switch the phones off, all that kind of stuff, and just get back to the way it should be. Man in his natural environment with a fridge. Good on you guys. See you out there. Land Cruiser never fails to please, doesn't it? It was just awesome.
Yeah, it was a good day in there, that's for sure. Nothing like beach to the bush though, bush to the beach.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this spot. If it's anything like the other ones you guys have been taking me to, it should be an absolute ripper.
Mate, this one's a bit of a secret spot. We're just a little bit south of Maryborough and we're going to cut in over towards the coast. You might like this. There's something pretty exciting about just endless paddocks full of pine trees, all lined up, all at different stages of growth. You know, it's almost majestic. in a strange sort of a not natural way.
Every time we drive through, I'll pick a pine tree out miles away. And I'll say, oh look, the pine tree, I love pine trees. Well, and I could get why they would think I have a weird fascination with pine.
What is it with planting pine forests?
I get it, I'm okay with it, I do love them.
It gives you all sorts of Christmas tree fantasies though, you know?
Camping at Inskip Point, that's the first time I've actually camped there. I've driven by it hundreds of times on the way to Fraser Island. I've either camped at Double Island Point or gone all the way to Fraser Island. I've always wanted to stay there, but we did this time. Good, right on the beach.
All right, there's no such thing as a free lunch here on DustemUp, and the boys told me that if they're cooking for me, I gotta cook for them. Now, what we're gonna do is I've got all my favorite ingredients here, which is basically everything that the supermarket sells. We've got a little bit of mixed pork, a bit of beef, tons and tons of bacon, and a few eggs. We're gonna get all this stuff, combine it into one burger. So first things first, we've got quite a few ingredients going into this. So to keep it simple, we're gonna get the slow cooking stuff like the bacon and just get this cracking over here. Now, if you can get streaky bacon and get it in a camp oven or something like that, it's gonna be a bunch better, but there's a couple of beers last night, so just this stack should be fine, I reckon. Now, you're not gonna wanna start with pre-made burger patties because they are just absolutely average. We're gonna make our own now. If you can, a mix of pork and beef is absolutely perfect, but in a pinch, just add a bunch of extra spices to make up for it. We need about 3 in each one, so just break them off into probably even thirds like that and roll them up into a ball. You don't want to squeeze it too much though, you want to squeeze it into the pan itself to get that char goodness. Of course, while I got that happening, we've got the thick cast iron pan heating up, and that's going to hold a lot of heat, which is really going to be good to get that seared edge on it. So what we're going to do, the thin little bit of oil in there, we'll put all 3 in there, hit the timer. We're looking for about 2 minutes on this. This is the secret. Push them in there nice and tight, really try and get that charred edge going. That's where the flavour comes from. A little bit of salt and pepper in there, and then pretty much just anything that's going to add a bit of flavour to it. Got a bit of smoky paprika because that's what they had at Gamiri. Just a little in that, just enough to give it a bit of a kick. Let's pick them up, flip them straight over. You can see that charred edge. Because these don't have pork in them, they are a little bit crumbly, but I reckon the boys will know exactly what to do with them. Now the topping that brings it all together, melted slice of cheese. We're just going to grab these off, nice and gentle so they don't fall apart. And they should be a little bit pink on the inside still. Rip open a couple of burger buns. Just going to chuck them upside down in the pan for a minute just to toast that edge. We'll just let that go for maybe about 2 minutes. One last little trick I've got for you from years of stuffing it up. You crack your egg into a cup first. That gives you a chance to get out any bits of broken eggshell before it goes into the fry pan. Start picking out some of the good stuff for Gleno. I reckon that should keep the big fella happy. Put that egg on there for him. All right, last piece of the puzzle. Steak sauce should get us home. Hey Gleno, got something for you, buddy. Sauced up, come and grab it.
That.
Give that a whirl, tell me what you think.
Dan's Dangerous Everyday Everett Burger. That's a mouthful. The burger, I mean. Unreal. I don't think of doing that stuff for breakfast, but I didn't have to eat till dinner.
I'm not sure if you'd call it cooking, so much as chucking everything a bloke likes on a piece of bread, because that's what he did. And Dirty Dan, well, he did his best. That was a deed and a half. Breakfast for champions. You know, I did my first ever drive on the beach shoot for the old magazine here on Tiwa Beach. And every time I come back, it just feels fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of those meccas, isn't it, John? It's good to get the sand between the toes, and it's good beach driving.
Hey, you guys are holding out on us New South Welshmen, and this is just absolutely stunning. We've got nothing like this down the coast.
I can never get enough beach driving. You've got the ocean rumbling in on one side, you've got the cliffs on the other side, and it's so nice to see so many other people out there enjoying exactly that.
Driving down Rainbow and Tiwa Beach today, I come to a realisation that no other state really has the beach driving like Queensland. And have Double Island, Rainbow, Fraser Island, Stradbroke Island, Moreton Island, all beach driving. Sand driving mecca, Queensland.
Hey, Gleno,
Dirty Dan.
what's the story with passing people on the beach and indicating and all that kind of stuff? I've got not a clue what I'm doing.
Okay, well it must be a Queensland thing. I know here in DI and Fraser Island, you know, whoever's got the indicator on first takes that side. You stick to the road rules, obviously, for majority of it. So you pass on the left always, but if there's a convoy of you and it's safer to go the other side, then you indicate. Just lets the other person on the other side your intentions.
I think you blokes have definitely got this beach driving thing wrapped up.
For me, the most exciting thing about this trip is it took me back 30 or 40 years even to a stage when, for a little while in my life, I had this regular 9-to-5 job. You know, now I know that sounds kind of weird, but that was me for about 6 years. And for 6 years, I got out pretty much every weekend into the bush. But you don't get that much time, so you're only getting a couple of hours out and a couple of hours in. This trip reminded me of all those times. You know, there's nothing iconic about some of the names, some of the places we went to. But what there is sheer, solid Australian country bush, you know, and the chance just to get out there in the middle of nowhere and experience nature. And at the end of the day, you can have a camp on top of a mountain at Conondale, or you can have a camp down in a valley somewhere up the Cape. You're still having a camp. You're still with your mates. It's still a great time.
Look, I bang on about these trips all the time, and you know, but I'm going to bang on about it again because I constantly get asked. You see it all over social media. You see it everywhere. You know, you're going to go to the same place twice, blah, blah, blah. How do you find new places to go? Well, jump in your car and go. Turn left. There's an intersection up here. Okay, turn right. Head out. Just go in that direction. You know there's going to be bush out there. You're going to discover something new every time. And that's what we do at DustemUp. We're not about, yeah, we do the meccas. I want to go to the meccas. I want to go to the Capes. I want to go to the, you know, the Flinders and all those places. We do. But just out of town, within a couple of 100 kilometres, you can spend a couple of weeks out there just discovering. Easy. And you'll never cross the same road or track twice. You can have a new campsite every night that no one's ever camped at. Guaranteed. We're doing it. You can do it too.
We've got a couple of good beach driving spots in New South Wales, but I got to tell you, Queensland turns it on every single time. You know, Fraser's right there, and you kind of feel like Inskip's just the way to get there, but the reality is, it is just the start of one of the most stunning beach drives on the East Coast. What a great way to wrap up this trip. Boys, what a hell of an adventure. Thanks so much for having us.
Good on you, Dan. Well done, mate. Well, I'll tell you what, we haven't been more than maybe 250, 300 Ks from a major capital city, from Brisbane, and yet we've seen some awesome terrain, some great campsites. It's been pretty cool, eh?
Travelled places we've never been before as well.
Yeah, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. I mean, you know, you wouldn't expect Dan to know these places, Don't know if you know them either. Now we all know them. Good on you guys. Come on back to DustemUp. We'll see you soon. Well, after a lifetime of travelling the bush, I've decided that really, in life, only one thing matters, and that's pork. So see you later. I'm off to see the missus. Hey!
Hey fellas.
Mr. Everett.
How are we, mate?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Bloody long time no see.
Yeah, too right.
Picked a hell of a spot, haven't you?
Yeah, got yourself a new car.
Yeah, I pinched it. So, yeah.
Okay, Dan, wind it up, mate. You heard of purple rain? We got purple rain clouds coming in here at the moment. We're on Land Cruiser Mountain Park. We're on the mountain, and there's a massive storm rolling in. Lightning, rain, the leaves are blowing around, the trees are whistling. And do you know what? We're camping, and this is some of the most exciting camping you can do. You know why? Because at the end of the day, this is Mother Nature in its absolute purest. It's just exciting. I love this kind of stuff, but more than anything, what I really love is the fact that we'll all remember this. Of all the nights we've been camping, of all the nights, you know, when everything's been beautiful, it's when it goes like this that you really remember it. Excuse me, I've got to grab a pole. But don't put your camping trip off just because of a little thing like a storm. Here it comes. These are the best times.
Clear up top. Take that as a yes. Keep your secrets, Gleno.
Splashes, don't splash water up onto your bottoms for the moment, please.
Sure thing, Coxie.
Copy that, mate.
Bring it on!
Yibbida, dabbity doo.
Ah, that last one looks like it timed out. Battery's flat.
And get really high and it roll your eyes.
Button off. Do you say button off, Dan?